There are two ways of looking at it. One is to say I'd like to go into the management of society and get power and do something with it. And the other is to say I'd like to go in a representative capacity and fight for the people I represent. And that is a more popular approach. And you need both sides really to be successful. There are people in all parties who say what they mean and mean what they say, and they're the ones who have influence, because you listen to someone you know has got conviction, and that influences you, and that means he's influenced you and you've influenced other people, and then gradually you build up a body of opinion which shapes policy simply because most people agree with you, and that's how campaigns succeed. Depends what you mean by corrupt. If you mean does money pass and so on, I've never come across examples of that. I dare say there are some examples and they have come to light. But I think the real corruption is the corruption of power, that when you get near power you can be corrupted into thinking you're better than you really are. And that leads you to believe you have a contribution to make you haven't got to make. And that is corrupting the original purpose with which you had in mind when you entered into the controversy. So I think that's probably a more significant example of corruption than cash passing from one person to another. Well, I think it's very easy when you're in politics to begin to think that the ideas you advocate are embodied in you, and therefore you have a special importance, and that misleads you into arguing for your own future rather than the future of the cause which you believe. I mean, I'm not saying this happens on a huge scale, but there's an element of that in political life which I think everyone is aware of and is suspicious of, and you have to eliminate it from your own life if you want to be effective. Well, I mean, obviously you can be supported by very powerful forces. If you get the media to support you, then you're very strong, because the media influence people a great deal. If there's a lot of money behind your campaign, you can spend more money. But in general, the campaigns that succeed are ones which have a moral worth and popular support. And you mustn't be overwhelmed by the fact that you're up against very rich and powerful forces that may be trying to prevent you doing from what you want to do. I mean, if you look at history, how did men get the vote? How did women get the vote? How did we get the health service? How did we get the welfare state? How did we get democracy? It was all campaigning by people passionately and with others, and getting together and changing the public opinion. Well, there's a lot goes on we don't know about, and that's why freedom of information is so important. But obviously you work with people you agree with, and that tends to be how organisations build up. The Stop the War Coalition is built on people who just were opposed to war, Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, people who were opposed to nuclear weapons. And so as you learn, as you go through life, you have to work with other people to be successful and to learn from them and to contribute your own contribution, which may be quite a modest one, but every little bit helps to make the movement stronger. First of all, there are defects in the political system. It doesn't work to respond as quickly as it should. But I think the purpose of those who oppose to progressive change is to spread pessimism, and therefore telling people that whatever you do, it won't work. All politicians are corrupt, they're all the same, is a way of running a negative campaign. And you've got to be aware of that fact, that historically so many battles have been won, and you have to, if you want to win the next one, you have to concentrate on how it was done last time. And my experience of progressive change is, if you come up with a new idea like votes for women, to begin with you're ignored, then if you go on you're bad, then if you go on you're dangerous, then if you go on they lock you up, and then in the end you can't find anyone at the top who doesn't claim to have thought of it in the first place, and that's how progress is made.